The American squad storms down the court thirsty for blood, and there she is, Caitlin Clark, hoisting a bomb from the stratosphere, splashing that trademark long-range magic we have all been craving. The basketball world is absolutely reeling from the superstar's latest shocking development. For the second consecutive matchup, basketball's biggest phenom found herself riding the pine at tip-off. Despite detonating in her national team premiere with 17 points and 12 dimes, she was notably absent from the opening five when they faced off against Puerto Rico. Naturally, the rumor mill is spinning out of control. Spectators universally agreed that her reserve status during the opening clash was just a fleeting experiment. Everyone figured it was merely a precaution, a clever way to limit her workload while allowing the seasoned pros to set the initial tone. Yet, as the loudspeaker blared the opening roster against the host nation, her name was met with silence. Instead, Paige Bueckers and Chelsea Gray got the nod. Kelsey Plum took the floor, alongside Kiki Iriafen and Monique Billings, ready to wage war. Meanwhile, college hoop's greatest weapon remained seated, and honestly, this sparks a massive, unavoidable debate. Are the national team coaches purposely putting the brakes on their superstar, or is this a genius masterclass to dominate the reserve minutes? Hold that thought, because I need your take on this. Take a deep breath and tell me, does this generational talent belong in the opening five right this second? Sound off with a yes or no down below, because the uproar over this choice is reaching a deafening volume. Alright, let me paint a picture of how this epic showdown actually unfolded. The American squad clashed with Puerto Rico deep in the heart of San Juan during the international qualifier. And let me tell you, the vibe was a total 180 from their battle against Senegal. Fighting on home soil, the opposing squad had a roaring arena backing their every move, forcing the visitors to rely fiercely on their opening roster to survive the early onslaught. Plum caught fire straight out of the gate, while Bueckers seamlessly danced her way into an unstoppable groove. Iriafen could not miss a single shot. Through all this, the sidelined superstar quietly observed the battlefield. Finally, her number was called to join the fray. Naturally, the critics had a field day spinning their narratives as soon as the opening whistle blew without her on the hardwood. We saw Angel Reese claim a starting spot, alongside heavy hitters like Kalea Copper, Derica Hamby, and the ever-present Chelsea Gray running the show. You want to know how a true locker room legend handles this? A seasoned pro looks at the kid and says, "Listen, take my position. I am not going to stand in the way of greatness. Our squad reaches a whole new stratosphere with you out there, and I will happily play the background." But history repeated itself the exact second her sneakers hit the painted area. A fascinating shift occurred. The entire tempo shattered into overdrive, the floor stretched out like an ocean, and the opposing guards panicked, instantly terrified of her limitless shooting distance. She did not unleash a relentless scoring avalanche this time around. Those signature perimeter missiles stubbornly rattled out early on, and during one intense sequence, she brutally tweaked her finger trying to recover from a missed distance bomb. Yet, out of that frustration emerged a genuinely jaw-dropping highlight. Reading the enemy's mind, she leaped into the passing channel, snatched the rock, and sprinted the length of the floor for a punishing contested finish and the foul. Blowing past the defense, she absolutely torched Brianna Jones. She anticipates the feed flawlessly, ignites a solo fast break, and powers through contact, banking the shot home for a devastating bonus point opportunity. Gazing at her squad in pure disbelief, she mouthed, "Did that actually drop?" Stepping to the stripe, she was clearly hunting for a flagrant call. It looked like she caught a nasty blow to the skull on that drive. Watch the replay as she violently picks off that errant pass. Broadcasters captured her completely bewildered reaction right after the whistle, sparking absolute hysteria among viewers at home. Her genuine, wide-eyed question, wondering if the ball sank, perfectly captured the unpredictable chaos of the entire evening. While she did not shatter the stat sheet like her opening masterpiece, her lethal presence was undeniable. Deep into the third period, she finally launched a deadly strike from the parking lot. Standing directly on the mid-court painted crest, she drained it flawlessly. The red, white, and blue steamrolled back down the hardwood, eager to inflict damage, and their sharpshooter casually fired from the heavens, delivering exactly the kind of trademark artillery strike we crave. It is the precise weapon of mass destruction that sends absolute terror through the opposition the second she touches the center line. As the final frame approached, the national squad held their rivals in a stranglehold, effortlessly gliding toward an undisputed triumph. Bueckers wrapped up her stellar shift with 16 markers, Plum chipped in an easy 12, and Reese snagged her maiden international double-double, racking up 10 points and grabbing 13 boards. However, As the final buzzer echoed, the loudest conversation echoing through the arena had absolutely nothing to do with the scoreboard. The spotlight was blindingly fixated on her mysterious role as fans grappled with her secondary status for the second consecutive time in this high-stakes bracket. What is the master plan hidden behind the curtain? A handful of theories are circulating, starting with the most obvious one. Head honcho Kara Lawson might just be playing mad scientist. Keep in mind, this powerhouse roster already secured their ticket to the 2026 Global Championship. These clashes are heavily focused on forging unbreakable bonds and testing wild rotations, rather than treating every match like a do-or-die scenario. Then, there is the stamina factor. The generational phenom is still shaking off the rust after a brutal stint sidelined by a severe physical setback. The trainers could just be meticulously rationing her energy reserves. But an entirely different, highly tactical motive is glaringly obvious to true hoops junkies. Occasionally, the most lethal, soul-crushing weapon in a champion's arsenal is the assassin waiting quietly on the sidelines. Whenever Clark steps onto the hardwood, she is usually matched up against backup squads. The moment that occurs, the scoring assault absolutely ignites. We witnessed that exact scenario unfold during their opening matchup. Clearly, the national squad might be attempting to recreate that very same magic. However, the relentless chatter remains impossible to silence, simply because Caitlin Clark stands apart from the crowd. She reigns as an unparalleled mastermind of offensive playmaking in the basketball world. Whenever the crowd witnesses her dominating with such ferocious intensity, the inevitable debates instantly ignite. Does she deserve a spot in the primary rotation, or is utilizing her as a reserve weapon the absolute most brilliant strategy for the national team today? Sound off with your thoughts below. Would you insert Caitlin right at the opening tip-off? Or are you thrilled by the prospect of her entering mid-game to completely dictate the tempo? Leave a yes or a no down in the comments section. For those of you who have stuck around this long, type Clark off the bench below to prove you are riding out this entire breakdown, because this tale is far from finished. The American squad faces several more battles throughout this competition, leaving that massive, looming dilemma completely unanswered. Are we going to see Caitlin remain a reserve, or is an immediate promotion imminent? The absolute greatest has returned. We finally have our legend back on the floor. Laughter, Caitlin Clark has returned to the spotlight, ladies and gentlemen. She is performing as though she never took a break. Please tell me everyone caught that monumental opening triple. That ball rattled around the iron a bit heavier than normal, yet it still splashed through the net. Coming out of the reserves, Caitlin delivered an incredibly breathtaking spectacle. Ending the night with 17 points and a massive 12 assists, Caitlin secured the exact numbers that will dominate the mainstream headlines. The stat sheets, snorts and music, the flashy viral clips, and that colossal 64-point margin of victory. Yet if you analyze the action with a critical eye, a completely different narrative unfolded. Almost every single spectator overlooked the truth. The profound reality behind Caitlin's first appearance for the national squad had absolutely nothing to do with her shooting. The true marvel was the absolute chaos inflicted upon the opposing defenders the exact second her sneakers touched the hardwood. Her comeback performance. 17 total points, merely 12 minutes of action, and an unbelievable plus 35 rating. Notching 17 points alongside 12 assists, Caitlin secured a sensational double-double during her triumphant comeback. She appeared absolutely flawless out on the court. There is simply no alternative way to describe the phenomenon. The American national squad kicked off their FIBA Women's World Cup qualification campaign down in San Juan, clashing with Senegal. Entering as the undisputed #1 global powerhouse, the United States faced off against a Senegalese roster sitting way down at rank 25. Theoretically, this matchup was destined to be an absolute breeze. However, moments prior to tip-off, a singular fascinating detail caught everyone's attention. Caitlin Clark was noticeably absent from the opening five. She launched her evening stationed among the reserves. Naturally, the usual suspects immediately began fueling their own wild narratives. Confined to the sidelines at the jump, Caitlin watched while Angel Reese secured a starting nod. Kalea Copper, Chelsea Gray, Dearica Hamby, and Chelsea Gray took the floor. Chelsea Gray, do you understand how a true seasoned professional should react? An authentic veteran would declare, "Listen, take my position right here. There is no way I am fighting against that kind of talent. Honestly, our roster reaches an entirely new level if you assume my role, and I simply adjust to wherever I am needed." Right around the midpoint of the opening period, Clark finally removed her warm-ups and stepped into the fray. In mere heartbeats, a monumental shift swept across the arena. The impact did not stem from a quick bucket, but rather from the sheer panic she instantly instilled within the opposition. During her initial moments possessing the basketball, those defenders lunged outward far beyond traditional boundaries, tremendously far. They were practically pressing her at center court. Suddenly, the fundamental geometry of the hardwood transformed entirely. Whenever a defensive unit abandons the paint to that extreme degree, new dimensions shatter wide open. Crucial passing angles, explosive driving corridors, and vast zones for slashers materialize. Clark never once had to manufacture a heavily contested play. She effortlessly orchestrated the offensive flow. A quick dish directed toward the perimeter, an assist right there, then another rapid dump-off, while the panicked defense scrambled to adjust. Another flawless dime. The Rock zipped around beautifully. Senegal found themselves trapped in a desperate cycle of endless rotations, frantically reacting to the rhythm rather than dictating the tempo. As the final buzzer of the opening frame sounded, the scoreboard flashed 28-11. Our star playmaker had already tallied 5 points alongside 4 crucial setups. Yet, the truly mesmerizing aspect was witnessing just how thoroughly shattered and overextended the opposing defense had become in such a brief window. Caitlin Clark driving hard, zipping a gorgeous feed over toward Billings. Billings takes it strong down the left flank, kissing it beautifully off the window. It just proves how terrifyingly lethal this American squad truly is. Massive platoon swaps. We are witnessing full 5-for-5 hockey-style substitutions out there. Kelsey Plum gets on the board with her initial strike. Whenever Caitlin grazed the leather, her opponents instinctively flinched sooner, pushing their coverage aggressively upward. Their closeouts arrived in a frantic blur. This was the precise trap the national offense had meticulously designed, because the second a defensive player commits prematurely, a devastating open look is born. Moving into the second period, that tactical dominance became glaringly obvious. The American scoring machine detonated with absolute ferocity. Heading into the locker room at the break, the United States commanded a 59-19 advantage. They were burying 70% of their looks from the floor and a scorching 71% from beyond the arc. Caitlin had already collected 8 points and distributed 8 assists. Nevertheless, the raw numerical data paled in comparison to the true spectacle on display. The real magic lived within the cavernous spacing she provided. Each trip down the court felt infinitely broader, radically uncontainable, and wildly dynamic. The overwhelmed opposition simply drowned beneath an avalanche of lethal threats. Smother Clark at the perimeter, and a lethal passing lane magically materializes. Give her an inch of breathing room, and she launches a devastating bomb from the parking lot. Senegal remained completely paralyzed by that unsolvable nightmare. As the third period rolled around, pure agony began to boil over. The opposing head coach found himself swiftly tossed from the arena following 2 consecutive explosive technical fouls. The slaughter only grew exponentially worse as the minutes ticked away. When the horn signaled the close of the third frame, the American powerhouse possessed a staggering 82-36 advantage. 12 dimes were already in her pocket. The prodigy was pulling every single string on that hardwood. As the final buzzer echoed through the arena, the scoreboard painted a picture of absolute slaughter. Team USA, 110, Senegal, 46. A devastating 64-point massacre. 17 points and 12 helpers, all achieved in a mere 19 minutes of action. Shooting 4 for 5 from deep and perfect across 5 attempts at the charity stripe, she cemented her maiden international double-double. Yet, believe it or not, the stat sheet wasn't the real headline here. The true spectacle lied in the sheer panic gripping the defenders whenever the rock graced her fingertips. The second Caitlin Clark steps over the logo, opposing defenses are forced to snap like a rubber band. And once that spacing fractures, the whole offensive landscape transforms entirely. That is the hidden truth the casuals overlooked. This phenom did far more than put the ball in the hoop. She practically hijacked the opponent's entire defensive philosophy. Hence the dramatic metamorphosis of the offensive flow the second her sneakers hit the court. So, what caught your eye during this clash? Did you witness the defenders creeping dangerously high to guard her, say? Or did you brush this off as just another routine beatdown where every wheel was turning smoothly? Spill your thoughts down in the reply section below. If you are still locked into this video, type Clark Vision below, so I know you survived to the end. Especially since this is barely the opening chapter of the tournament. Should this inaugural performance be any indicator, Caitlin Clark is about to rewrite the entire defensive playbook for international basketball. Caitlin Clark absolutely detonated the court during her first run with Team USA. 17 points, 12 dimes, and a quartet of triples all crammed into 19 fleeting minutes. Yet the ultimate plot twist shocked the world. The superstar was excluded from the starting five. She entered as a reserve. But hold that thought for a second, because I have a crucial question to toss your way. Does a talent like Caitlyn belong in the opening lineup for the red, white, and blue? Sound off with a resounding yes or no down below instantly. Because following the sheer carnage we just witnessed, that conversation is about to become deafening. Let us rewind and dissect exactly how this masterpiece was painted. The American squad launched their FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying campaign down in San Juan, Puerto Rico, locking horns with Senegal. Our girls marched in holding the global #1 crown, while their opponents trailed at rank 25. However, despite that gaping chasm in talent, the pre-game chatter ignored the standings completely. The only narrative that mattered was the highly anticipated arrival of Caitlyn Clark to the senior national roster. Fans had been salivating for ages to witness this precise national team debut, and frankly, it arrived right on the heels of a battered WNBA campaign where she saw action in just 13 contests. The moment the opening five dropped, the audience instantly spotted a glaring omission. Her name was missing. The starting unit featured Kalea Copper, Chelsea Gray, Dearica Hamby, Angel Reese, and Jackie Young. Riding the pine at tip-off was a move that immediately set the internet ablaze. Because we are not discussing an ordinary athlete here. We are talking about Caitlyn Clark, arguably the most heavily scrutinized and debated icon in the modern game. However, midway through the opening frame, she finally subbed in, and the very millisecond her boots graced the hardwood, the atmosphere completely shattered. In the blink of an eye, she stacked up 5 points and orchestrated 4 beautiful dimes. Suddenly, the American attack transformed into a terrifying, high-octane machine. With barely 90 seconds remaining on the clock for the opening period, Billings swings it over. The rookie pulls the trigger on her first attempt, a long bomb, and buries it. She darts down the court, dishing it right back. A sweet finish off the window from the left flank. As the first quarter horn blared, the United States was already sitting comfortably on a 17-point cushion. Senegal was completely suffocated. The relentless American defense was terrorizing the ball handlers and swallowing up any glimmer of a decent shot. Heading into the second frame, the bloodbath only escalated. By the break, the scoreboard flashed a brutal 59-9. The Americans were draining 70% of their looks, including a blistering 71% from beyond the arc. Sitting dead center of that hurricane of destruction was Caitlyn herself, 8 points and 8 dimes, staring down the barrel of a double-double before she even broke a sweat in her national debut. Emerging from the locker room, the massacre carried on. The maestro simply kept conducting her offensive symphony. She mercilessly carved up the defense to feed wide-open snipers, and the mere threat of her pulling up from deep sent waves of terror through the opposition. Closing out the third act, the tally stood at a monumental 82-36. 12 dimes were already secured, while pure fury was bubbling over on the Senegalese sideline. Their sideline general was ultimately tossed from the arena following a pair of rapid-fire technical infractions. You could witness the sheer exasperation as the play crumbled. The whistle blew, handing Coach Sarr a harsh technical penalty. The Senegalese commander was absolutely furious over an ignored whistle, which earned him strike 1, immediately followed by the fatal strike 2. Absolutely nothing could derail the American freight train. They bullied their rivals into surrendering the ball 20 different times. The scoring unit was virtually flawless. As the ultimate buzzer pierced the air, the glowing numbers above revealed the undeniable truth. Team USA 110, Senegal 46. A colossal 64-point conquest to ignite the campaign, spearheaded by a stat line of 17 points and 12 assists in just 19 minutes of terror. Every single bucket she dropped originated from outside the perimeter. An absolutely lethal 4 out of 5 from the parking lot. Paige gets trapped in the paint, fires a rescue pass out to the perimeter. The sniper catches, launches, and splashes pure nylon. Stepping up to the charity stripe, she was absolutely flawless, sinking all 5 of her attempts without breaking a single sweat. Securing a double-double on the global stage during her ultimate debut for the senior squad is pure magic. Meanwhile, Atlanta Dreams standout Ryan Howard completely stole the scoring show, lighting up the arena with 21 massive points. Angel Reese chipped in beautifully, grabbing 8 crucial boards alongside her 6 points. However, the true blockbuster narrative of the evening went far beyond the numbers on the scoreboard. The actual spectacle unfolded the very second Caitlyn Clark's sneakers touched the hardwood. The entire offensive rhythm transformed in a heartbeat, becoming visibly quicker, brilliantly spaced out, and dangerously lethal. This electric shift pulls us right back to the burning debate that was raging long before the opening jump ball. Why is Caitlin Clark absent from the opening lineup? Perhaps cue the skeptical laugh. Management is severely restricting her floor time post-recovery, opting to softly reintegrate her into the absolute war zone of elite hoops. There is also the distinct possibility that they are merely playing around with various roster combinations throughout this qualification run. Still, watching an athlete casually drop 17 points while dealing out 12 assists in under 20 minutes commands absolute respect. Therefore, the grand debate officially ignites. Does Caitlin Clark deserve that starting spot for the American squad, or do you feel utilizing her as a reserve weapon is the smartest strategy at this moment? Sound off with your thoughts below. Hey, if you stuck around this long, type out Clark17 down in the replies so I can recognize my most loyal listeners. Honestly though, I need to hear it. Does she belong in that starting five for the national team, or is embracing the bench role the perfect play for the time being?